This is Inspiring Careers with your host, Ingrid Centurion. We're going to talk about fascinating technologies that will impact your future. Meet inspiring entrepreneurs and people that are making huge differences in the community and around the world. We're going to share career and life lessons of inspiration and success. Our mission is to inspire our viewers to make a better life for themselves by sharing our stories, our interviews, and documentaries. Please stay tuned as we have incredible guests coming up. Russ Gannon, born and raised just outside of Boston, graduated from Emerson College with a degree in radio communications. After stints as a talk show producer, WRKO, traffic reporter, WBZ, and DJ, WXRV, took a break from radio to spend a week on the film The Game Plan. Although it was only background work, it ignited a passion for acting. He made his network debut in the 2013 Sins of the Preacher, and has lent his voice to several episodes of the PBS news program Frontline. Whether it's in television, film, or theater, Russ continues to work regularly.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Let's go back to your younger years and how you got into radio and what was your dream back then.
Sure. So I grew up in Needham and not really in an entertainment household per se, although my mom was a belly dancer. So we did see her perform at an early age. But I was not bitten by any sort of industry bug or anything like that. In fact, when I graduated high school, I wanted to study accounting because I really liked math and that's what I wanted to do. So I went to Bentley College and immediately failed accounting. So I said, you know what, maybe accounting is not what I should do. I was driving home from class and I heard an ad on the radio asking for listener line volunteers at WBCN. And it was like this epiphany. I said, you know what, that's what I want to do. I want to be in radio. I had a Boston accent, wicked hard, sports, weather, you know, that it was sort of a soft Boston accent. Nobody's going to put you on the air when you've got an accent like that, unless you're Eddie Andelman at EEI or something like that. So I dropped out of college and got a job at BCN.
Hold on a second. Yeah. You dropped out of college.
Dropped out of Bentley. Yeah.
Your parents were very upset with you.
You know, they weren't thrilled. You know. You
dropped out of college because now you're going to be a radio announcer, pursue this career. What were your parents telling you?
So I got a job as a volunteer at WBCN, and I told my parents that I wanted to be in radio. And they said, all right, you know, we'll go along with this for a little while.
Well, that's good.
But after a couple of years, my dad said, look, if you really want to be in radio, go to school, learn how to be a DJ. So I started taking night classes at Emerson College, but I had a terrible fear of public speaking. So I had a fear of public speaking, I had a bad Boston accent, and no radio experience outside of answering listener line calls at BCN, and eventually moved to WFNX in Lynn, working in an alternative station, and then eventually became full-time student at Emerson. Got on to WERS, which is the radio station at Emerson, and sort of helped me get over my fear of public speaking. It was so bad, by the way, that I could not finish a public speaking class. I ended up getting an F because I refused to go back to class. I was terrified to speak in front of a class of 20 people. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I physically could not get up and stand in front of people. So I ended up getting on the air a show called Folk Music of the British Isles and Ireland. And I was working as a backup to the DJ. This was at Emerson's radio station. And I ended up getting on the air. I was very nervous, but I started to think about all the people that were listening to me on the air. And I was reading the concert notes like this, and I was like, oh, my heart's racing. And eventually I started to feel more comfortable in front of the microphone. Around the same time, I was taking comedy writing classes at Emerson, and I started to write comedy. Why not?
What grade did you get in that class?
That was an A.
All right.
Yeah, that's a little different than accounting. So,
All right.
And so I was on the air at ERS, and I was writing comedy, and I auditioned for WERS's Emerson Comedy Workshop, which was one of the 3 comedy troupes at Emerson at the time. And I just wanted to be a writer. I had no desire to get up and perform or talk in front of a crowd or anything like that. I just wanted to write and let other people perform my skits. And so it was fun. I was nearing the end of my time at Emerson. I did enjoyed writing the comedy. But the troupe wanted to take itself out on the road one summer. Well, some of the performers went home for the summer, so they asked me to perform. So I did that, and it was fun. I enjoyed being on stage. It was different because I was so used to being behind a microphone in radio. Well, my best friend from high school, Matt, saw me on stage, and he said, "You know, I've always wanted to do stand-up. Seeing you on stage has convinced me to do stand-up." So he starts doing stand-up. I graduate from college. I get a job at WRKO working for the Jerry Williams Show, producing, and then working with the Red Sox Network. When my buddy says, "You should try stand-up." I said, "I don't want to." I barely wanted to do troupe work. He's like, no, write 5 minutes. We'll get you up on stage. We'll do one of your 2-person skits. So he was hosting at Play It Again Sam's, an old comedy club in Alston, and he gets me on stage. And I do 5 minutes of stand-up. This was fun. Let's do this for a little while.
How big was that audience?
It was good. It was a good crowd.
Yeah, it was a good crowd.
Yeah, no, this wasn't like
okay.
an open
Not
mic
3
with
people there?
no. We had a good, I had a lot of support. People from WRKO that came out to watch it. But you see where my path was going from accounting to radio to stand-up. And so and then I eventually decided stand-up wasn't for me.
You were building your confidence.
Yeah, I was.
I mean, from the F in that class, public speaking, to radio, you're hearing your own voice, and finding that voice. Now you did the stand-up and you liked it.
I did like it. But I loved music. That was my passion from an early age. That's why I wanted to get into radio, and that's why I didn't stick with stand-up. So
what instruments do you play?
I play guitar, and I play some piano, self-taught. I just, it was always something to do when I didn't want to do homework. Just pick up the guitar and play it. But eventually I wanted to review records. So when I was at WRKO, I worked with Howie Carr from the Boston Herald, and I asked him if he could put my name in to the critics and get a job as a music critic, which I did. I got a job as a music critic for the Boston Herald and for the Boston Phoenix.
So you were writing, you were a good writer, you were writing these articles.
I was writing, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I was reviewing. At one point I was writing for 6 publications around the country, reviewing live shows, reviewing CDs at the time, interviewing bands, and so my time at RKO came to an end. I wound up going to Metro Traffic as a traffic reporter, working at the top of the Pru, and that's how we reported. But I was getting further away from my dream of being in music radio, so I eventually got out of radio and started working at a record store. So again, now my path is weaving even more, and I spent 12 years as a manager at HMV Records in Harvard Square. Now I'm no longer in radio, I'm no longer writing, I'm not doing anything that I thought I would be doing. And I was in retail, our store was closing, and a friend of mine from 92.5 The River, WXRV, I ran into her and she said, "Have you thought about being a DJ again? Because we could use some help up here at the station." Sure, why not? Let's get back into radio. And so around 2002, 2003, I got back into radio, and I was on the air for a couple of years, but radio's not the same as it was in the early 80s. And I found myself getting very bored on the air, which you think it's very exciting. You've got all this music and you're meeting bands and you're on the air, you've got a crowd listening to you, but...
What about 12 years at the store? Wasn't that boring?
No, that was a
No?
blast. No,
That was
a
the
lot of
best?
fun.
Really?
Yeah, that
So
was,
you were engaging with people?
yeah, because in the mid '90s, I think that the music industry was at its peak.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
by 1995, '96, when CD sales were, you had Hootie and the Blowfish, Alanis Morissette, 10,000 Maniacs, Santana.
Everybody was coming in.
Everywhere, and
were
it was
busy,
it
right,
was a
okay.
fun time to be in the music industry. Once Napster came along and MP3s and digital downloads and people stopped buying CDs, then it wasn't much fun anymore. So, and same with radio. Radio is, I never played a CD. You know, I had to click and drag a file, and I had everything in it was already pre-programmed. So it takes some of the fun out of being a DJ.
So you went back into doing some DJing, and then when did you make that decision that you're going to start acting?
So in late 2006, I was bored and had seen an ad to be an extra in The Game Plan, which was the movie with The Rock. It was a Walt Disney film that they shot here in Foxborough Stadium, where The Rock plays a football player and he leads the Boston team to the Super Bowl. So I went and I applied, and I was one of 750 extras that day to go to Gillette Stadium. It was a very cold September. We were supposed to pretend that it was the Super Bowl in Arizona. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah, go team.
So you had shorts on?
No, but I couldn't wear a jacket. None of us could wear a jacket. But here's what happened. The very first day of filming, the first day that I'd ever been on a set, I was among almost 800 people in a tent, and this woman from wardrobe walked up and said, what size jacket do you wear? I don't know, large. She said, oh, wait here. And she came back, she goes, I'm making you a coach today. And just like that, I went from being one of 700 people in the crowd to one of maybe 100 on the sidelines. And by lunchtime, I'm throwing a football with another extra on the 50-yard line at Gillette Stadium. And I said, this is a pretty cool job. Can I make a living doing this? And so the next day, I came back and I said, well, I was a coach yesterday. Can I be a coach again today? And they're like, no, that's not how it works. You're a fan. Unless you want to be an extreme fan. We'll paint your face. Yeah, let's do that. And the day after that, I was a reporter, and I ended up doing 6 days on The Game Plan, and it was fun. It was a fun experience, and I really enjoyed that. And what I did is I picked the brains of people on the sidelines. I said, can you make a living doing this? And they said, well, you know, it's up to you. How hard do you work? So
Let's talk about some of your auditions. What
Sure.
was
So-
the best audition? What was the worst audition?
So I'm coming into this industry with no acting experience whatsoever. And all I have is a radio voice and some comedy timing. And so naturally, when we do background work, most of the actors that do background work want to audition for films. They want to get a speaking role on film. And a good majority of people who get into this work via background work don't have the training to be actors, but yet will go into an audition thinking it's easy, myself included, and it's not. It's really not. So,
But Jennifer Lawrence has never had acting lessons. I
No,
always bring that up.
and
What is this, a natural gift?
and as I said, I think you and I had mentioned before, Bubba Watson had never taken a golf lesson, and he won the Masters. So there are people that just are born with that talent.
And then you spoke about how some people, they just play themselves.
Yeah.
So that's pretty easy. Be yourself.
Yeah, you just, and that's really what acting is. We think of it as this huge, like, sort of weight of training, and really it's all about removing a lot of stuff. In acting, look at children. This is a great example. Look at children playing in a playground. They have no fear of being silly, of running around, being goofy. They don't have that that sense of embarrassment or this feeling that everyone's watching them. Then we become teenagers, then we become adults, and then we become actors, and our goal is to get back to what kids are like. They're free. They're free of all of that weight that we carry as adults. So we go into the audition process nervous because we start to think, well, this could be the role that, I'm opposite Al Pacino or, something like that. You go in and, okay, I'm going to do this, and you stink. You're terrible. I've got so many of those. Just terrible.
How many famous actors have you been around?
You see a lot on set, and one of the rules of being on set is you don't approach an actor. If they approach you, that's one thing, but you never walk up and go, "Hey, Adam Sandler, how are you?" Big fan. But there are actors like Jennifer Garner. Is super nice. I've worked on 2 films, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past and The Invention of Lying. She's been very sweet. I've worked on a bunch of Ben Affleck films. He's been very personable. In one film, I play golf next to him and had to actually play golf for the director to show that I could play golf. And we're on a driving range together, and he came over, and he's very nice. And so it's fun when you look at them as just they're at work, you're at work. And in the early days, I absolutely admit that I was starstruck by seeing someone on set. Kira Sedgwick was standing next to me on the game plan, and I was like, oh my God, it's Kevin Bacon's wife. She's right here. But I recently worked on Denzel Washington's Equalizer 2, and what I did on set is just watch him and watch him act.
So you were learning. You were
that's
observing.
What you have to do.
What's your favorite role to play?
Yeah, I think anything that is sort of opposite what I am. So I get cast a lot as dads, priests, businessmen, politician. Anything where I can step out of my comfort zone, I enjoy playing, and would play. That's why I like theater, because theater really allows you to kind of step out in some of those roles.
For voiceover, for someone who's watching that they want to be an actor, or someone that wants to get into this business, what do you recommend?
So your headshot is what's going to open the door. And it's very important that you have a headshot. Now, it doesn't have to be the greatest headshot ever made. My first headshot is of me standing against a yellow wall, and my wife took the picture of me. That was my first headshot. My second headshot was someone else who did corporate headshots. But each one led me to it opened certain doors until it was time to get another headshot and do that. What casting directors like to see is that your headshot looks like you. That's the most important thing. You don't have to spend a lot of money on headshots. You just have to make sure that what photo you're presenting looks like you. And I can't tell you how many times somebody will go in, drop off a headshot, get called in, and suddenly they have a full beard, or they've put on 30 pounds, or they don't look like, the casting director wants this person that's in this photo. So the importance of having a headshot is really, it's to open that door. But you don't have to spend a lot, especially if you're just starting out. But it's important to have something, some photo.
How about your reel?
So here's the thing about a reel. So a reel is a series of clips put together to showcase what you've done. Most people don't have that when they start out. They don't have any clips of themselves at all. So it's hard to talk about a reel if you don't have any sort of acting experience. For me, so I ended up joining SAG, the union, in 2008, and I think I joined AFTRA in 2009. Now, SAG is the Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA, the American Federation of Television Radio Artists. One primarily covered television, one primarily covered film, but a few years ago they merged, and now we're SAG-AFTRA. So all of them, and most actors were both unions anyway, SAG and AFTRA.
And you have some involvement with SAG-AFTRA.
I do, yes.
Tell us about that.
So I joined SAG in 2008, and I ran for the local board in 2011 because it was right around the time of merger, and I wanted to be involved with sort of the back end of it, to find out what really goes on when you talk about SAG. When you talk about the Screen Actors Guild, it's not just a union, it protects actors. It protects the contract. There's a lot of things that actors have put up with over the years, and you know, you go back 50, 60, 70 years, and actors with no protection from the union could work 17, 18-hour days and then turn around and be asked to come back the next day. So the union protects that, and the television, the film and television contract that we work under, SAG makes sure that the film studios adhere to that contract. So I ran for election, and I made it onto the board, and I served 3 terms, and right now I'm the vice chair of the National Background Committee for SAG as well. And it's fascinating. I love sort of the inner workings of the industry as well as the actor side. So you first get started, and I joined the union. And when you join the union, it means that you can no longer work non-union projects. For someone who has no experience in front of the camera, non-union work is a great place to get that experience and to get footage for your reel, whether you're working on a small independent project or a local commercial or something like that. That's where you get your training. When I joined the union, I joined probably sooner than I should have. Even though I was eligible to join, I had no experience in front of the camera. So I had to find other ways to get that experience, and one way is through student films. And student filmmakers can shoot using union performers under a student film agreement that SAG has, which allows student filmmakers to use union performers to shoot their student films. So as you go through my reel, a lot of the footage comes from student films. And they're high quality films. These are master's thesis, senior thesis projects. These are future filmmakers that are putting together wonderful work. The scripts are great, they're enthusiastic, and so I really enjoy working with student filmmakers, and I do quite often. In fact, just last month I completed 3 student films that I had been working on. And it's much more of a collaborative effort too, because I get to bring my experience as an actor to the set. They have their experience as a director or as a director of photography, a script writer, and then we all work together to make sure that the scene is built the way it'll be the most efficient. So a lot of what you see on my reel are student films, they're independent films, and then there's a couple of major releases.
And as you pursued your career, you had some acting lessons that you gained a lot of great information from. And
so yeah, so when we joined, like I said, most of us that started doing this, that I know, a lot of people just did not have any acting experience. And there are some classes that you can take around town, but I found a guy by the name of Scott Fielding who runs the Chekhov Institute of Boston, and for me, that was the training that I really connected with. It's Michael Chekhov's style of acting, a student of Stanislavski. It's based on gesture.
that really helped you
It
get
did.
better. You learned a lot.
It
in
did.
this.
So what happened was Scott had suggested after training for a little while that I do a play. Now keep in mind, I'd never, outside of a little comedy, been on stage at all. I don't want to do theater, I want to do movies. No, do theater. You'll enjoy it. So I auditioned for a short play in Hudson and was cast. And it ended up being the lead in a play called The Worker, and I was on stage for almost 20 minutes. So The Worker, I think, is the picture of me on stage holding a doll, yelling at a woman who's down. It was sort of a Twilight Zone type of play, very futuristic, where people couldn't have babies and couldn't even have a doll, and So
what are the names of all those plays that you were in?
So that was The Worker. The sailor outfit was Mr. Roberts, which was the first play I did with the Concord Players. I was also in Sound of Music, where I played the butler Franz. Night Watch is sort of a 70s murder mystery thriller, where I have the sideburns and the smoking jacket. And then most recently, I did a play called Stage Kiss over at Neshoba Players in Westford as well.
So the theater really helped you perfect your acting skills.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
practice.
Yeah,
It was on stage.
Yeah,
You're
you just...
studying your lines.
So a lot of what you need in a film audition is you sort of touched upon it earlier when you said, what's your best, what's your worst audition? My best audition is when I can create an environment, an imaginary environment that I can see and feel a part of. And those are always my most successful auditions, where I can see, if I'm in a room, I know where everybody in the room is. If I'm talking to this person, if I'm talking to this person, all of these people are here in the room with me. Those are skills that every actor should bring into the audition room to create this environment, because it's within this environment that you're going to flourish as an actor and make the scene believable. That comes out of training, and the theater helps with that training as well, because what is theater but creating an imaginary world on stage that you're acting within.
So what advice would you give to upcoming actors?
This is not an easy business, and you're going to get frustrated. So I can't say don't get frustrated, but try to use that frustration positively. Don't succumb to what we call Facebook envy, when it looks like everyone in the world is working on a project and you're not. A lot of people sort of overstate what they're doing in this business. So if you think that everybody's out there working and you're the only one that's not working, that's really not the case. But really follow the direction you want to go in. But you've got to work at it. You really have to work at it. And it's probably not something you're going to be able to do full time at the beginning. You're going to have another job. The auditions are few and far between sometimes. Maybe you get cast in something, or you're working background and they call you late. Hey, are you available tomorrow? So you have to be flexible. And then really training, you know, I'll say that. But not just acting training. The body is the muscle that the actor uses. So that means that you need to watch what you eat. You need to exercise. You need to read scripts. You need to watch films, watch TV. You can't be in this industry and not really just absorb everything that's out there for you to watch. I watch films all the time that I've seen 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and I'll watch something different each time. I'll watch, what is the person who's not speaking? What are they doing? What are they using their hands or their props, or what are they doing with themselves that is so engaging? We talked a little bit earlier about how some people play themselves, and the example I like to use is Bruce Willis or Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks. These are people we know. Why is it that we buy into their roles in films? Michael Caine is another one. Morgan Freeman. They're so familiar to us, yet we can watch a film and immediately buy into what character Tom Cruise is playing and not go, oh, well, there's Tom Cruise on screen. Why? What does he bring to it? Well, he buys into the film, and he gives, you know, that performance of that character. And so that's why I say, if you're a new actor or you want to break into this business, you really need to study that. The second thing is you need a support system. You know, I'm lucky. I have a great support system among my family and my friends. I couldn't do this without them. So.
Well, thank you for being on the show today. Your story is inspiring, starting acting at a later age in life, and now you've been doing it for almost 12 years.
Yeah.
when I met you and you told me your story, I was like, well, you definitely need to be on the show. I've always wanted to be an actress, but I'll just play myself. That's easy.
Great,
and,
thank you.
You gave some great advice today, and so our kids and our viewers watching will take this and hopefully get out there and start working really hard to become an actor or an actress one day.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.